Bless you. Thank you so much for being out here. I don't think this is on. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, there we go. Wonderful. Hi, I'm Congresswoman Becca Balint. I represent the state of Vermont. Yay! I know there's a lot of Vermonters and people who have ties to Vermont in the crowd. Thank you so much. It means so much to me that you're out here. Mohsen Mahdawi is a cherished member of our community in Vermont, and I want to do everything I can to elevate his story because it is an indication of just how far from our values we have strayed. And so thank you. And a lot of people were asking me just now, does it matter to come out on the streets? Does it matter to protest? Absolutely. This administration needs to know that we are watching very carefully what they are doing, that we care about our rights. And so when people say to me, how do I get other people out to join me in the streets? You have to let them know it is about standing up for all of our rights, but it's also about giving Mohsen Mahdawi and other people like him the understanding that we are standing with him. Do you know how lonely it is to be captured off the streets by people in masks and hoods in unmarked cars? And they wonder, is anyone thinking about me? And the answer is absolutely. And that's what it means that you're out here, that you are indicating to Americans, but also to him and his team that you care. So thank you so much for being out here. So look, this is what I know. There is nothing more important than a man's liberty. Nothing. And that is why his story and the stories of others like him have captivated this nation. It's the reason why so many people, even those who voted for this president, have said, we do not approve of what you are doing around immigration. We do not approve of how you are treating people with green cards. So we have to continue to elevate these stories. So you know this, but I just want to lay it out for you. People right now in our country are being disappeared by this administration. Children with cancer are being shipped off illegally. Babies. Students are being harassed and detained and intimidated and threatened. Why? Because they exercised free speech rights and the right to assemble. These are the rights that are basic to who we are or who we say we are as Americans. What is happening right now in our name is unjust and outrageous. What is happening right now in our name is terrifying. And what is happening right now in our name is against everything we say that we stand for as Americans. And it's so important to be out here in front of the State Department. Marco Rubio, stand up for due process. Stand up for the Constitution. If you believe in freedom as you say you do, then prove it. Prove it with your actions, not your empty words. I felt compelled to bring together this event. And thank you, Pramila Jayapal, for being with me. There are going to be other members of the House and Senate in just a few minutes joining us. I felt compelled to tell the story of Mohsen Mahdawi. As I said at the top, that he is a beloved member of the community in Vermont. Now, you may not know his story because there have been so many stories. How can we keep track of all of the outrageous actions of this administration? It's very hard to keep them straight, but these are people with stories, and we have to continue to uplift them. So look, here's what I want you to know. He's been a permanent legal resident in Vermont for 10 years. He's a student at Columbia University. And earlier this month, he was invited to his very last stage in achieving citizenship. He had gone through the entire process. It was the very last meeting he was supposed to have. But it was a trap. This is what our government is doing in our name. It was a trap. He was lured there with the promise of finally having citizenship. And what happened? He was arrested and detained with no charges given. No charges given. Rubio says he is a threat to our foreign interests. And yet, exactly, yes, he provides no evidence, no examples. It's clear he's being detained because he exercised free speech and because of his advocacy for Palestinian rights. And I have to tell you, if Trump's brown shirts are so proud of what they're doing, take off your masks when you go to arrest people. Pull down your hoods. Show us your faces. Because you are doing this in our name, and we will not stand for it. What happened to Mohsen Mahdawi is an outrage that every person of conscience should be appalled by. If it can happen to him, you know what I'm going to say. If it can happen to him, it can happen to you. Tomorrow, Mohsen has another hearing in Vermont. He must be released. They have no right to be holding him. He deserves to be home, furthering his studies, and not sitting in a jail when he is a threat to no one. We are out here because we understand that if we detain people for speaking their minds, we are not America anymore. We are not a free society. We are not a democracy. They are trying to silence him because, more broadly, the Trump administration is trying to silence us. That's what this is about. That's the plan. Intimidate, harass, bully, threaten so that we will stop talking. But we're not going to stop talking. And that's why it's so important that you're out here today. We're not going to stop talking. We are not going to stop fighting for justice. Every day, each day, we will hold this administration accountable. So thank you so much for lending your voice to this cause. I know it means a lot to Mohsen Mahdawi and his team back in Vermont. It matters that he sees people standing up for him. So thank you so much for taking the time. And now, I am so excited to introduce someone who knows what it's like to stand up for everyone in his state of Maryland. Senator von Hollen wasn't going to let his constituent be shipped off to El Salvador without a fight. And Senator, we were with you in spirit, all of us. You were speaking for all of us. And he was there fighting for a man that you know his story well, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a father, a Marylander, and just like all of us, deserving of due process. Let's hear it for Senator Van Hollen. Thank you so much for making time. Okay, my apologies, we're switching it up. I'm going to talk about another great man, my senior senator who's been crisscrossing this country, fighting for all of us. He is a hero to so many of us in the crowd. My senior senator, Bernie!
Well, let me thank Becca for helping to organize this event, for all of you for being out here today. It's hard for me to add anything to what Becca has said. All of you know that Mr. Mahdawi of White River Junction, Vermont, has lived in this country and in my own state of Vermont for the last 10 years. He is part of the community there. In that decade, he has made many friends, he has built bridges, and he has used his voice to advocate for peace, justice, and dignity for Palestinians and Israelis. And as Becca mentioned, when Mohsen walked into an immigration office 2 weeks ago for what was supposed to be the final step, think about this, the final step in his citizenship process. He's about to become a citizen of the United States. He followed all of the rules. He followed the law. But instead of completing the process, Mohsen was illegally detained. Armed, masked individuals in plain clothes arrested him, forced him into a car, and refused to provide any information as to where they were taking him or why or what would happen to him. This took place in the state of Vermont in the United States of America. Now, not only was this action cruel and inhumane, most importantly, it was illegal, it was unconstitutional. Mr. Mahdawi is a legal resident of the United States, and like all legal residents and citizens, he must be afforded due process under the law. Unbelievably, and it is quite unbelievable, Mr. Mahdawi, up until this moment, has not even been accused, let alone convicted of any crime. And yet, tonight he remains in a jail cell. It goes without saying that if the Trump administration has any shred of justice in it, Mahdawi must be released immediately. And Becca made this point as well. This is not just about Mohsen Mahdawi. It is about you and you and you. If you can pick up a legal resident off the streets, throw him into a car, and put him in jail without any due process, that could happen to you. You don't like what the Trump administration is doing? Maybe they will do that to you. You don't like what the fossil fuel industry is doing? Maybe they will go after you. So this is a moment in history where we have got to stand up against Trump's moving this country to authoritarianism, because that's what we're talking about. Too many people have fought and died to retain democracy and the rule of law in this country. And we will not allow Trump to trample on what those people fought and died for. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Senator Sanders. Thank you. We know how busy you are. We really appreciate all that you're doing for all of us. So, as I said earlier, we are very, very honored to have Senator von Hollen here. And so, without any further ado, since I gave him his big intro earlier, it all is still true. And we're so excited that you're here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Becca. Thank you, Congresswoman Ballant. Thank you to the Vermont delegation. Thank you to my colleagues. Thank you to all of the patriots gathered here to stand up for our Constitution. Are we going to do that? Yes. To stand up for due process. Are we going to do that? Yes. And to stand up for the First Amendment of the United States. Are we going to do that? Yes. So I want to thank all of you gathered here. Yes, to stand up for the rights of Mohsen Mahdawi. Also to stand up for the rights of Mahmoud Khalil. Also to stand up for the rights of Rumeza Ozturk. Yes. And to stand up for the rights of all the students who were illegally abducted from their neighborhoods, from the streets, by the U.S. government, by the Trump administration. That should not happen in the United States of America. In the case of Mahmoud Khalil, we saw him snatched from his family, his wife, a United States citizen. His wife just delivered a baby while he was in detention in Louisiana. In the case of Ms. Ozturk, you've probably seen the videos. Fulbright student at Tufts University. People come up to her, so people with masks on, and just take her off the streets. An illegal abduction. She's also in Louisiana right now. And of course, the case of Mohsen Mahdawi, who was going through the process of taking his citizenship test and being confirmed as a United States citizen. He understands we have a Constitution. I will tell you, I don't think Secretary Rubio could pass a citizenship test today. And I want them to hear that on the 7th floor. You know, Senator Rubio used to take to the Senate floor all the time. He used to talk about an American foreign policy based on promoting democracy, based on human rights, based on freedom of religion, based on freedom of speech around the world. And now, as Secretary of State, he is trashing freedom of speech right here at home. You know, I grew up in a Foreign Service family. I was proud to be from a family that represented the United States overseas. We are far from perfect. We have a lot of work to do to live up to the principles that we stand for overseas. But one of the things we do is we work to stand up as a beacon for human rights and freedom of speech. At least we used to, until the Trump administration came along, until Secretary Rubio came along. So instead of promoting freedom of speech overseas, he is ripping up the First Amendment of the Constitution here at home. That is shameful. That is shameful, and the American people should not stand for it, because it's absolutely true. If you rip up the Constitution for one man or one woman or one person in the United States, you threaten First Amendment rights for everybody in the United States of America. Now, Secretary Rubio has dug back into a McCarthy-era statute from what was called the McCarran-Walter Act at the height of the McCarthy era to say that these students represent a threat to the foreign policy of the United States of America. That is pathetic, right? We have students who are protesting or urging for Palestinian rights against the war in Gaza, and they somehow represent a threat to the great United States of America. This is a shameful and obviously wrong argument. And I really hope the judges and courts of the United States see right through that sham that Rubio has concocted. So instead of actually being Secretary of State and promoting freedom of speech overseas, he has become the porter-in-chief of students here in the United States and someone who shreds the Constitution. But it's not only freedom of speech he and the Trump administration are shredding, it's other constitutional rights like due process. Thank you, Becca, for mentioning Abrego Garcia, Tomar Abrego Garcia. This is a man who was snatched off the streets of Maryland. He was driving with his 5-year-old autistic son, and all of a sudden disappeared into the U.S. detention system, and then taken by a plane where he couldn't see out the windows, didn't know where he was going, to El Salvador, and placed in one of the most notorious prisons in the Western Hemisphere. And the Trump administration had admitted in court, they had told the judge that he had been wrongfully abducted and deported. But instead of fixing their, quote, administrative error that landed him in the gulag, instead of fixing that, they decided to punish the lawyer who told the truth in court. And now we have a 9-0 Supreme Court decision saying they have to facilitate his return, which they are ignoring. And whether it's these cases of these students, like the 3 I mentioned, but others, if we don't stand up for their constitutional rights and their First Amendment rights, then shame on us. Because, as Becca said, what authoritarians and bullies, what they count on is all of us cowering in the corner. They want us to go away. They don't want us to exercise our First Amendment rights. So thank all of you as patriotic Americans, because we will not be bullied and we will not be silenced, and we will stand up for the First Amendment and the Constitution of the United States. Thank you, great patriots gathered here.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for your leadership in going down to El Salvador. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I've got so many superstars behind me. I am just filled with so much gratitude that everyone has found time to be here today with all of you as we say, not in our name. Not in our name. Not in our name. Not in our name. Thank you so much. The next person I would like to turn the microphone over to is a woman that I'm honored to serve with on the Judiciary Committee. She is the ranking member, soon to be chair, I hope, of the Immigration Subcommittee, Jayapal.
Thank you so much, Representative Balint. The people of Vermont and Mohsen Mahdawi are so incredibly fortunate to have a leader like you, a champion like you, fighting for him and for all of us across the country. Look, I think this is an incredible display of power and of our resistance. And that is the only thing that is going to stop this administration from continuing to snatch and disappear people from across this country, on our streets, in front of our eyes, in our communities. And so today we are here to very clearly say, bring Mohsen Mahdawi home. This is enough. We will not tolerate it. You've heard his story, and I say this now not only as ranking member of the Immigration Subcommittee, but one of just 19 members of Congress who are actually naturalized citizens myself. And I know what that citizenship interview meant to me. And I know that when Mohsen Mahdawi went through the entire legal process to apply for citizenship as a legal permanent resident, the joy he must have felt when he walked into what he thought was going to be a citizenship interview. And the cruelty of using a citizenship interview to lure him in so that he could be snatched and disappeared and detained. It is absolutely shameful, disgusting. I don't have the words to describe how horrific what is happening right now is. And I want to be really clear. The Trump administration lied and continues to lie to people across this country about what they were going to do and what they're doing right now. They said that they were going to deport the, quote, worst of the worst criminals. Remember that? They said that somehow those people posed a threat to your public safety. Instead, they are quashing the free speech rights that are afforded to every single person in the United States. And they are snatching and detaining and deporting U.S. citizens, legal permanent residents, people with legal status, and they are deporting them and terrorizing immigrants across this country. As has been said over and over, if they can do this to Mr. Mahdawi, they can do this to anyone. And that is the test here that I want you to keep thinking about. They believe that somehow they're going to be able to say that this is about what this person said about their advocacy for Gaza that poses this terrible foreign policy threat. Well, guess what? Here in the United States, you get to say whatever you want. Whether we agree with it, whether we don't agree with it, that is called free speech. It is uniquely American, and if Marco Rubio doesn't know that, he should not be Secretary of State. And this isn't just about any one group of people. Just understand that. Just this week, 3 U.S. citizen children were deported, including one who is in the middle of receiving cancer treatment. How insane is that? With zero due process. Zero due process. And even when the courts tell the administration to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia, or to make sure that we are not deporting Venezuelans to foreign gulags with absolutely no due process, this administration is not listening to the courts. And so in these moments when authoritarians and dictators try to steal our speech, try to steal our rights, the only thing that works is the people standing up to that. And so today, as I lose my voice for my 5th rally of the day, we are here to demand Mohsen Mahdawi's release. We refuse to be complicit in these violations of our First Amendment rights, of our Constitution, and perhaps equally important, of our conscience. This is about all of us. And it is the playbook of authoritarians and dictators, and every single American has to be fighting against this. So, Marco Rubio, Donald Trump, all of those who want to destroy American freedom, we will not let you do that. No matter how little our voice is, we're still going to speak up and fight back and demand justice. Thank you all for Mohsen, for Mahmoud, for Kilmar, for Ramesa, for the children, for the families, for our communities, because we know that immigrants make us better. And as Mohsen himself said today from the detention center, an injustice against one is an injustice against all. Thank you all so much.
So if you are hearing this name for the first time, if you did not know the case of Mohsen Mahdawi, please listen. He gave an amazing interview on NPR last night. They replayed it again this morning. You will understand him better listening to that interview. You will feel like you understand what he is all about and why he is so beloved in his home community in Vermont. So thank you so much, Pramila, for being here. This next woman needs no introduction. She is a hero to so many in this country, talking about justice and liberty and freedom. It is my great honor to introduce Rashida Tlaib.
Thank you so much to Becca. I got to tell you all, so I got a call from a friend of mine in Vermont. I have a lot of friends in Vermont. It's kind of cool state, yeah. And Becca, I got to tell you, remember I called and you're like, I'm on it.
Yeah,
I didn't even have to say anything. She's like, I'm on it. Remember that? I was like, okay, I didn't want to pressure you. I just got all these calls. But thank you so much for courageously, just unwavering. She was on it within hours. And I just want for folks in Vermont to know and the families to know she really is a true fighter, and she does it in such a beautiful, graceful, I wish I could be as graceful as she can, and about speaking truth to power. We all know the Trump's administration's attack on immigrants and students in our country, and you know, folks have trying to describe this. It's cruelty. It is. It's so cruel. That's the only way to describe it. It's so incredibly cruel and inhumane. It's more than shame, right? It's just absolute cruelty. You know, we know that they are kidnapping people and sending them to prison camps. That's what I call them in El Salvador, famous for torture and forced labor. You know, even hearing, I know Pramila talked about deporting the U.S. citizen children, including a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old or 5-year-old child that has cancer. And we know they're targeting, abducting students because of their First Amendment speech. It's not only Mahmoud Khalil, Rasmiya, and Badar, and so many others. And we know this is about whether immigrants, including lawful permanent residents in our country like Mohsen, enjoy the right to free speech guaranteed by the First Amendment. If the justice system does not protect people like Mohsen and Mahmoud and Rasmiya and all of us, then we know that it may include U.S. citizens next. We know that. That's fascism. There's no due process, no criminal charges. You all know this. No warrant. They have arrested even a judge on sham charges. We are living now in a fascist police state. No, people don't want to say it, but you got to claim it. That's exactly. And it's hard to believe we're only at week 13. Only at week 13. They are openly defying a Supreme Court order. You know, I saw somebody had a sign, it's time to impeach the president for his abuse of power. That's absolutely true. It's time to resist fascism at all fronts. We have to, at all fronts. You know, Mahmoud was kidnapped, like the senator said, from his home, and disappeared, legally disappeared, and put into detention facility thousands and thousands of miles away from his wife, a Michigander. And you know, as their newborn son, and hearing her talk about this, I just can't imagine what she's going through. Again, the cruelty. You know, my son was lured into, and there's already high anxiety, you guys, when you go in for that citizenship interview. You know, as a former immigration attorney, I remember my folks, they had to memorize 100 questions, go in there, and it's so hard, and it's overwhelming and intimidating. You know, he's been a legal permanent resident for 10 years in our country. You know, a person that has roots in Vermont. And to me, they are political prisoners. And we are demanding that they be released today. And I want to be clear, and I've said this to my residents, and they understand when I say this. The rights of Mohsen are our rights. When they trample on his due process, they're trampling on our due process. Those are our constitutional rights. It's not just Mohsen, it's ours. So when they're doing it to him, don't ever hesitate that it couldn't be us next. We're already seeing it. You know, dissent in our country is a fundamental American value. Look, I grew up in the most beautiful, blackest city in the country. We always spoke truth to power, even when it was unpopular. You don't have to always agree with us. You don't. But you have to respect our First Amendment right no matter what. And that's one of the things that I'm, you know, at this moment, it should alarm all of us. If we do not stand up and fight for freedom today, the fascist Trump regime will come for everyone. These are test cases, y'all, and they won't stop there. The fascist crackdown and attempting silence of the growing movement to save lives, no matter faith or ethnicity, and that includes Palestinian lives. Yes. You know, one of the things that I know from growing up again in this most beautiful community ever is that movement and transformative change and fighting and saving our country didn't come from Congress. It's truthful. It didn't come from Congress or the White House. It came from all of you. We didn't get the Civil Rights Act because somebody woke up and said, wow, that's a really great idea. We didn't get these protections because everybody thought it was a really great idea. It's when people organized in the streets and demanded that change. That's the power you all have. So continue to rise up to fight against this fascist regime. And I'll tell you, you can keep trying to come for all of us and think that it's only those that are speaking about Palestinian rights, but this is an American value. You can see at every corner of our country those saying save lives now. Palestinian children deserve to grow old. They deserve to be free. They deserve to live. And it's not going to go away, no matter how many folks you continue to target, because they're vulnerable and they're hanging in there and you're just grabbing them because you think, because we're going to turn our backs because their name is Rasmi or Mohsen or Mahmoud. We're not going to turn our backs on them because, again, their rights are our rights. So free them all, free them today, and to continue to watch, again, the American people rise up. Even folks that might not politically agree with us are rising up and understanding due process for all, constitutional rights for all. When you come for one of us, it means you're coming for all of us. And again, I want to thank Becca for this. You know, it is very, very difficult in maneuvering, again, around this, but she doesn't hesitate. And it's really refreshing when I see colleagues continue not hesitating. We got to fight fascism 24/7, y'all. We got to. It's not only resistance through the courts and litigation, but it's resistance in the streets, resistance in Congress, and resistance with no hands out. You've got to continue to fight back. So again, thank you all so much for continuing to speak up to my colleagues. Continue to understand your name can be Becca or Mohsen. Our rights are the same. Thank you all so much.
So I wanted to just take a moment to just highlight, as I said, he gave an amazing interview last night, and I wanted to just read one part because it really speaks to what we're all talking about today. He said, I grew up in a refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. Before coming to the United States, freedom was just a concept. But the real experience of it, freedom of movement, to travel among 50 states, freedom to breathe the breeze of the ocean and to feel your toes in the sand. This is the first place I have experienced this. That is a man who loves the freedom that he has in this country. That is a man who is willing to stand up for the Constitution. This is a man that we want as a citizen of the United States. So I'm very, as I said, the team behind me is incredible. Next, I'm going to bring up Nydia Velázquez, who is from New York's 7th District. Come on up.
Well, thank you all for being here, and Becca, thank you for bringing us together. Mahdawi is a graduate student at Columbia University. He's not a criminal. He's a student activist. I was a student activist. I've been put in jail like 12 times, fighting to get the Navy out of a small island in Puerto Rico called Vieques. I went to jail under Bill Clinton, fighting when we denied Haitian people to come to the United States because of HIV/AIDS crisis. And I did that because I knew that I had freedom of expression, freedom of speech, that I could convey my opinions without fear of being put in jail. And he is a legal resident of this country. On April 14, Mohsen was dragged away by armed agents when he showed up for what he thought was his interview to become a U.S. citizen. He was targeted by ICE because he spoke out against U.S. foreign policy, because he dared to stand for peace and Palestinian rights. He was singled out because the Trump administration wants to silence dissent. Over the past 3 months, hundreds of students have been targeted by the federal government for exercising their constitutional rights. Free speech and due process are not optional. They are supposed to be the bedrock of our democracy. When Senator Welch visited Mosa, he said that he wanted to become a citizen because he believed in what this country is supposed to stand for. Well, those principles are under attack. Trump's assault on immigrants is an assault on free speech, on due process, and on the very idea that this country belongs to all of us, not just the powerful and well-connected. If they can do this to someone like Mohsen, they can do it to anyone. Who will be next? Legal residents? Undocumented? Citizens? U.S. citizens? Members of the press? For expressing their opinion on foreign policy? In just 100 days, the Trump administration has launched an all-out assault on due process, and they are only getting bolder. That is why we have to speak out, because if we don't push back now, it won't stop with immigrants. No one's rights in this country, including freedom of speech, will be safe. We are outside the State Department to tell Secretary Rubio, we are not going to back down. That's right. Shame on you, Mr. Rubio. When you talk about human rights around the world, what about the human right of a little child, 4 years old, stricken with cancer, sent to Honduras? Shame on you, Mr. Rubio. Let me just say this. We are here today, and we will be here next week. That's right. We will take on the streets until Mohsen is free. And we are going to fight until every student, every activist, every immigrant knows they have the right to speak, to live, and to belong without fear. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I thought it would be important for me to read from a statement that I got directly from Mohsen Mahdawi through his attorneys. And they know that we're doing this, and there's a live stream happening, and I'm hoping folks back in Vermont are watching. And so this is what he wanted me to read to all of you. He said, I don't want people to lose hope. Stay positive and believe in the inevitability of justice. This hearing, the hearing that he's having tomorrow, he said, this hearing is part of our system of democracy. It prevents a tyrant from having unchecked power.
That's right.
He said, I am in prison, but I am not imprisoned. A system of democracy guarantees freedom of speech, and speaking of Palestine does not only qualify as freedom of speech, but it is also about our humanity. He said, keep the hope alive. I will see you under the sun. So our next speaker is somebody who came into Congress in my class. He is a dear friend. He is someone who has, in his short but powerful life, been speaking truth to power about a lot of things, including gun violence prevention. He's a hero to so many across this country. I know I keep saying that for every speaker, but it's true. This is an incredible lineup behind me. It's my honor to introduce Mr. Maxwell Frost from Florida's 10th District.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you to Becca for putting this together and for being a fierce defender for your constituents and for our rights. And the first thing I want to say, as a Florida man, is Marco Rubio is one of the biggest hypocrites in Washington, D.C. This is a man that, especially because of his Cuban heritage in the state of Florida, rose to prominence in politics by pointing fingers at every country around the world, talking about their human rights abuses, talking about the repression of activists and organizers, and now he's doing the same damn thing here. The same exact thing here. And people have been talking about this, but all throughout human history, authoritarians, right-wing fascists, they do the same thing. They get to a position and they're not satisfied with the power they have. So what do? They start tiptoeing with doing blatantly illegal things. Why? Because they want to see what they can get away with. They'll deport someone. They'll not give someone due process. And then who will they look to? They'll actually look to the people. They'll look to the streets to see if anyone's quiet. They'll look to the legislators. They'll look to the opposition to see if anyone says anything. And if it's quiet, they take that as a pass. And not only is it a pass if we're quiet, but if we're quiet, we are letting it happen. We are complicit in it happening. We've been talking about what could happen next, but we don't have to talk in a hypothetical. U.S. citizens have already been deported. Already have been detained in this country. And I also have to speak from a very personal place. I was born and raised Southern Baptist. I was literally dedicated in the church. I wanted to be a youth pastor my entire life. I am appalled that my faith is being used to persecute other people and other faiths in this country. Especially by a man like Donald Trump that is selling Bibles with his name on it to make money. It's blasphemy at the highest level. And so he is another complete hypocrite. The other thing I want to say is I want to talk a little bit about some people in my own party who want us to believe that there's two different stories going on right now. That one story are the Republicans and Donald Trump cutting Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, nutritional assistance, the things that working people have earned and worked for, all to help billionaires. And then the other story is them impeding on our civil rights, deporting people because of their First Amendment rights, people like Mohsen, who are just saying that everybody, every human, every Palestinian deserves human dignity and life, and that these are two different stories. Bullshit. These are the same story. One is not a distraction from the other. Because the only way that you can cut Medicaid is if you destroy democracy. The only way you can take what's ours and give it to the billionaires is if you deport people and put them in prisons to scare them from going to the streets. These aren't two different stories. It's the same story. It's the same thing going on. They know what they're doing. And there's a reason they're doing it to very specific people right now. They want to see if their campaign to dehumanize Palestinians have worked. And that's why they're targeting Palestinian student activists. They want to see if their campaign to demonize immigrants have worked. That's why Kilmar Abrego Garcia and so many others have been sent to a place like El Salvador. But we're proving to them that their campaign has failed. It has failed because we see everybody as human. And more importantly, one of my favorite things to do at home is go to the citizenship graduation ceremonies. And the first thing I always tell everybody is, congratulations, today you don't become an American. And everyone looks at me like, wait, is he a bigot? What's going on? I thought he was woke. I say you've been an American since the day you got here and decided to be. Today you become a citizen. And that's the thing that these guys are not forgetting. Maybe they've never believed this, that the Constitution doesn't belong to people because of their status. It belongs to every person on this soil. And you want to talk about, they always want to talk about American exceptionalism, but then they want to take away the few things that actually make our system exceptional. The fact that every person on this soil has due process and the rules that keep us safe. What's the difference between someone kidnapping you in the middle of the night and ICE going and taking someone without due process and putting them in another country? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I'm proud to be here as a Florida man. I'm proud to be here as a man from... No, hey, look, I used to say the great state of Florida. We're the beautiful state of Florida with millions and millions of working class people and immigrants who are fighting for our own rights in our country. And I've told people around the country this. What's happening now, Project 2025 is Florida 2024, 2023, 2022, 2021. We've been dealing with this in the South. Now the country is dealing with it. And we'll all work together to ensure that, of course, we free Mohsen, we free Kilmar Abrego Garcia, we free Mahmoud, we free all these individuals and Americans who are having their rights taken away, and we will fight for our democracy in our country. Thank you so much. God bless you, and thank you so much. Thank you, Becca Ballin, too.
Oh, I'm so proud to serve with Max Frost. What an inspiring, rousing speaker you are. All right, so you know when you have those moments where you feel like, oh, am I actually living a dream? This next moment is one of those moments, because Ayanna Pressley is someone I got to know when she was running for Congress. She came up to Vermont to speak at an event that I was at, and I thought to myself, oh, I want that woman in Congress. And she has only increased in esteem in my eyes, and it's surreal for me to be able to be here with you and be able to introduce you as my colleague, Ayanna Pressley.
Well, as I've said many times about Maxwell, I would follow him into any battle, but I lament following him on the microphone. First, let me just say to Congresswoman Ballin, I love saying that. Thank you for showing the world what solidarity really looks like, and for reminding people that values are verbs. They are things to be demonstrated, to be practiced, not to just simply be espoused. And you challenge each of us to higher heights. I'm grateful for your leadership and for your bringing us together today. You know, we keep using the word shame, and this is a shame that we find ourselves here. And it is also a sham. These extremist acts to disappear people from society have nothing to do with immigration. They have nothing to do with law and order. They have everything to do with power.
That's right. That's right.
And Donald Trump is abusing power. And that is what dictators do. Dictators mean to silence any dissenting voices. And the only way to beat a dictator is with defiance. And that's what brings us all here today. I'm so glad that you all are awake. The other side wants you to be asleep. They're anti-woke because they want you to be, they want a citizenry that is ignorant and uninformed, that is indifferent to the suffering of their neighbors, and that is inactive. So you're already winning, and you give me hope and make it easier to practice the discipline of hope, because you could have been anywhere else today, but you chose to be here to say that these abuses of power will not go unchecked. And I know that I am speaking to the choir as I go to refer to my notes and enumerate these facts, but I preach to the choir for one reason, because I need the choir to sing. When you leave here, I need you to sing about these injustices. I need you to sing about the fact that this is not about whether or not we can weather the next 4 years, that this is about shaping the next 100. I need you to sing about the fact that this is the moment and the opportunity to be better ancestors than descendants. Who is Mohsen? Mohsen was raised in a Palestinian refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. He is a man who loves and is loved, who is connected to family, who is connected to community. Mohsen is a green card holder and lawful permanent resident of the United States. Mohsen is a scholar, a senior at Columbia University and co-founder of Columbia's Palestinian Student Union. And now, shamefully, Mohsen is a political prisoner. Instead of celebrating his graduation and preparing for his master's program in the fall, he was on the verge of becoming a U.S. citizen after 10 years of living and learning and contributing in the United States. Instead, his life has been upended, and he is awaiting his future from the confines of a detention center. Shameful. In Donald Trump's America, Mohsen's story is becoming shamefully all too familiar to all of us. He was whisked away and disappeared off of the streets, just like my constituent, Somerville resident and PhD student, Mosa Mahdawi. Make no mistake, these abductions are not isolated. They are part and parcel of Trump's precise, intentional, and coordinated attack on our democracy and our constitutional rights. They serve no purpose other than to silence dissent, restrict due process, and to sow fear in our communities, which is exactly how a dictator operates. But again, we will not allow these abuses of power to go unchecked or unanswered. Last week, I went to conduct some real-time oversight. I visited our sister Mosa Mahdawi and our brother Mahmoud Khalil in Louisiana at the ICE detention facilities where they are being held. Allow me to digress for a moment to remind people that this is a for-profit carceral system. And the same way that there are billionaire corporations that benefit from for-profit prisons and mass incarceration, the same billionaire corporations are benefiting from for-profit detention centers and the disappearing of immigrants. These things are all connected. So if someone at home is saying, why should I care about this? If you care about mass incarceration, you need to care about mass deportation. If you care about mass deportation, you need to care about mass incarceration. So last week, I went for a wellness check. It was also, again, real-time congressional oversight. What I saw and heard from Mosa and Mahmoud was harrowing, heartbreaking, and infuriating. Mahmoud spoke of growing up in Syria under Assad. He said, I know what an authoritarian regime looks like, and this is it. Mosa thanked me for being there along with my colleagues in our Codel and said the women of this detention facility have questioned if God has forgotten about us, if the world has forgotten about us. They are being denied proper medical care, deprived of sleep. They're not receiving nutritious meals, no religious accommodation. A nurse without consent removed Mosa's hijab. The cruelty is the point. Look, family, what's happening to Mohsen, Mosa, Mahmoud, and so many others is a damning injustice. They've been charged with no crimes and are being detained simply for exercising their right to free speech, for speaking out about the Israeli government's genocide in Gaza. Now, let me be clear. Regardless of your position on that issue or any other, this should outrage everyone and anyone with a moral conscience. I did not journey to rural Louisiana because I am a Democrat. I journeyed to rural Louisiana because I'm a human being who gives a damn about other human beings. In America, we have a fundamental right to freedom of speech, and that's what makes us who we are. So this blatant, flagrant violation of our First Amendment rights through these abductions should outrage everyone, regardless of your personal beliefs. And as I close, because our freedoms and our destinies are tied. In his letter to Angela Y. Davis, James Baldwin wrote, "If they take you in the morning, dear sister, they will surely be coming for us that night." And that is the truth. Today it is Mohsen, it is Mosa, it is Mahmoud, and tomorrow it could be you. It could be you for reading a banned book. It could be you for suffering a miscarriage. It could be you for practicing diversity, equity, and inclusion. So today we refuse to accept these abuses as inevitable. We demand due process and accountability for all. And we will keep working to protect our Constitution and everyone who calls this country home. Free Mohsen Mahdawi, free Mosa Azhar, free Mahmoud Khalil, save our democracy. This is not about weathering the next 4 years. This is about shaping the next 100.
I've been told I have to pull the mic down or else nobody can see me because I'm so short. So,
Tiny but mighty.
Tiny but mighty, exactly. I just wanted to give a shout out. My other senator, Senator Welch, was here earlier. He needed to go back to vote, but he did go see Mohsen Mahdawi, and he cares so deeply about this cause. And I just want all the Vermonters to know that Peter Welch was here. He is standing in solidarity with us. He just needed to go do his constitutional duty as well to go vote. So that's right. That's right. So we are so excited because the class that just came into Congress has brought with them this incredible sense of energy and justice. And this next speaker, Maxine Dexter, who represents Oregon's 3rd, she is someone who has been out in front, and she brings the best of Oregon here to D.C. to represent all the people back home that care so deeply about human rights. Thank you so much, Maxine. Take it away, but now we have to move it back up. All right.
All right, thank you so much. I have to first just say what an honor it is to work with these powerful, incredible leaders. And the people of Oregon gave me this opportunity, and I will do with it the honorable things that I can, and will stand up. My name is Maxine Dexter. I am a mother. I have an 18-year-old and a 21-year-old who are both on college campuses, and they are frightened with their friends right now. I am also the proud representative for Oregon's 3rd Congressional District, which represents 82% of Portland, Oregon, and we know that Portland does not back down when our rights are at stake. I'm also a critical care physician, and my job is